if you would, you have a very impressive resume, not the least of which is that you were a judge advocate. For what branch of the military were you?
There's my shadow box right there. United States Air Force.
Okay. Thank you for your service.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Almost, I was telling you earlier, we always say, we're on duty 24/7. I literally was 24 years, 7 months.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what else? What else is on your resume? What else are you involved in?
Yikes. Okay. So after being on active duty as a military lawyer for almost 25 years, I did two with the Air Force General Counsel's Office as a business matters attorney for the United States Air Force Academy, and then one on faculty there as the deputy director of the Center for Character and Leadership Development. And I created my company, P3 Tech Consulting, in October of 2019. And that's been a wild ride. I went full time into the business, left federal service completely last February.
Okay. Wow. And your involvement with drones is?
Well, I do a lot of drone law and policy writing, research. I started out in the Air Force helping the Department of Defense. I'm just cracking up with the dog in the background there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Kelly.
I love it.
You know what? It always seems like the dog manages to camera bomb. Like he's always on that corner of the bed.
I'm sorry. I just totally squirreled on you there. So
Squirrel. Yeah.
Getting back to the drone stuff.
Yeah.
That you want to talk about.
Sure.
Okay. So, I started writing the DoD's policy on domestic use of drones back in 2015. And that really sparked my passion. And I just, started researching it. If you remember, there was just this explosion of crazy state drone laws coming out around that time. And just did a ton of writing and research. And so what I do now in my business is I do consulting. I have my own podcast called The Dawn of Drones on Drone Life every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Mountain. And I do a ton of writing. And I do conference planning too. I do have an event coming up, so it's really exciting.
Yeah, let's talk about your event very quickly. It's Law Tech Connect, right?
It is. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's a one-day event in conjunction with AUVSI Exponential in Orlando, Florida. It's Monday, April 25th. And just to foot stomp this, because I know you have a big non-legal crowd out there, this is not just for lawyers, okay? This is really the reason why I created my company, so that we can have these rich discussions between engineers, drone pilots, people in industry, and lawyers. Because what I found so many times, even in the military, is lawyers they're sitting in some back room hatching up the policies, even the legislation, the law, without really fully appreciating kind of the client. And that's what this is all about, is having those discussions. And we did get 8 continuing legal education credits from the Florida Bar for the lawyers, but it is definitely not a lawyers only event. All the panels are mixed, and I'm so excited. We've got amazing speakers.
Okay, well, all of your links are in the description. So if you're watching, you're at all interested in that, do check out all of Dawn's links. Now, you mentioned the DoD and being a lawyer and an advocate for consumer drones. You've experienced local overreach by local municipalities, and that's one of the things that just gets me going. When a town council's like, you know what? I don't like drones. I heard of a drone. I saw a drone once at Walmart. No drones in town. Boom.
Exactly.
And then they can't do it. And that's why our buddy Ryan La Tourette, who has been on the show a few times. You know him?
Well, I see him all the time on the Facebook pages, and yep, absolutely.
Okay, excellent. So he's a great person to have in our corner in the community. But so what's your take on that? What's the future bring? Are we ever gonna get caught up where these towns just don't even try to do that anymore and will defer to federal law?
Well, I'll give a shout out to the Drone Service Providers Alliance, right? And Vic Moss, Kenji Shugahara, and that crowd too. That's really their mission. And it all comes down to education, right? People just don't understand drones. They don't, and so they get these perceptions. They put out these crazy rules. But when folks like, I'll give you another example. AUVSI is actually pretty at the local level. Adrian Doko out there in Texas. They've been, Scott Stofman out there. They've been able to change some, draft legislation before it ever hit the books, like turn it off completely. And I think that level of education and engagement is really key at the grassroots level.
When will enough precedent be set to where it just becomes where these people don't try anymore, where we as a community are protected?
Wow, that's a great question. When is the tipping point?
Yeah.
I think, just in the past year, we've seen so many more, I'll call them drones for good stories than we've seen before in COVID, ironically, because drones are the ultimate social distancer. And you saw drones being used for, whether it was disinfecting a stadium or delivering COVID vaccines somewhere, or even food to remote areas. The more we can flood the mainstream media, because look, we are really good at, FUBU, right? For us, by us. Like we talk to and about ourselves all the time. It's breaking through that to the mainstream media, right? And having, regular good news stories instead of, oh, look, there's that, a year or plus ago in Pennsylvania, there was some random drone with some copper wires, they were trying to short out like critical infrastructure, So sadly, that was like my 5 minutes of fame on CNN. That's what they called me about. And I wanted to jump in and say, but of course they don't. They're like, all right, thanks, click. And then, the Skype went off.
Well, they always try to vilify drones to sensationalize for the news.
Of course.
Because nobody wants to hear, well, this drone delivered defibrillators to this dude and he lived. Okay. Yeah. Yawn. Right.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, even if we got the weird stories out, right? I just, what was it, just a month ago, something about they were hanging a sausage from, I'm seeing your dog again. Oh, yeah. They hung a sausage from a drone to save a dog. Yeah. And then made it on the front page of CNN, right? So the weird use cases might be another way to kind of pierce that veil, and get into more mainstream media. But we got to do it more. We got to get out there.
Absolutely. And you're right about getting out in the mainstream. We've got to let the general public, non-drone people, know the basic rules and that drones aren't to be feared.
Or even just to see them, look, the drone light shows that we've seen recently, they get positive press. Yeah. People are like, that America's Got Talent, Ken. Yeah. They are moving forward, with a really cool drone light show. And, Simon Cowell's like, oh, drones. So the more we can get people saying that and the more use cases we can get out there and get it normalized, then we won't have legislatures out there writing crazy rules because they'll realize the public actually wants drones and cares about drones and likes them.
Yeah, I've been in a few FAA safety board meetings where I actually suggested this once. I don't know if they took me seriously, but I said, hey, because the FAA, this board people has, influencers like all the people you mentioned, and then me, sure. You have to get out there. And I said, why don't we get Drew Camden or Mr. Steele to put FPV goggles on Stephen Colbert and have him dive the NBC building? Something like that. Yeah. Just a stunt like that. Everybody would be amazed. They'd be amazed. Yeah.
I was just talking about this during CES. I was out there during the drone, the DRL World Drone Racing League Championships, and it was on the Vegas Strip. It was outside of T-Mobile. You could see it from New York, if you had a hotel room there facing the stadium. It's outside the MGM Park. Yeah. And the public was invited, and I'll tell you what, it was freaking cool. And people were so excited. They're like, oh, wow, we didn't know such a thing existed. This is amazing. And I believe since then, I think they played it and they got 240 plus million global views of that race from January. Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing, and you know, all the people watching this stream and on all of us, we're drone people. We've known about this stuff forever, but people are just now discovering this stuff as more and more technology becomes available. Now, remote ID. I know you've got something to say on that, and I would like to get an update because you know a little bit more about the Race Day Quad stuff. Can you give us a scoop? Give us a scoop.
Well, you know, I just actually talked to Jonathan Ruprecht today. He's one of the main counsel representing Race Day Quads. He's actually going to be on one of the panels, you know, for our Law Tech Connect workshop there that we discussed earlier. And I said, hey, dude, when is this ruling coming out? And he said, you know, I don't know. It should be imminent. So anyway, to back everybody up, there were oral arguments back in December. And that's when, you know, Jonathan argued against a gentleman from the Department of Justice. You know, they had their, you know, 15 minutes of fame in front of the D.C. District Court of Appeals there for the D.C. Circuit. And, you know, that's where we are waiting for the judges to decide. But, you know, I wrote an article on this. I should have given you a link, Ken. I apologize. It went live in the Lawfare blog for anybody that's into national security and what's happening out there, especially from the legal and policy standpoint. The Lawfare blog is the place to be, and it's tied to the Brookings Institute. Anyway, I wrote a piece in there where I outlined blow by blow those arguments. And I'll tell you, there was a gotcha moment. There really, really was. There was a judge. And by the way, I believe this guy is like a Trump-era judge who might not be super... You wouldn't think he'd be really friendly towards Race Day Quads, but here's what he said about the Fourth Amendment, because a lot of this is about geolocational privacy.
Yeah.
Okay. He basically said to the DOJ guy, look, help me out here, because if I'm writing this opinion, I need you to tell me what I'm writing. He said, what if and he outright said, because right now I'm thinking this is unconstitutional. I mean, that's like a quote. And then he says, let's assume I'm standing in my backyard, flying a drone. The backyard is fenced. No one beyond that fence can see, right, through the fence what I'm doing.
Yeah.
He's like, how then is it constitutional for law enforcement to be tracking me in my own backyard in that instance? And the DOJ guy literally said, yeah, I guess we'll have to rewrite that.
Oh.
I mean, something to that effect. And it was just like, holy shnikes.
Yeah.
Like that was it right there. And, you know, honestly, you know, I'm going to nerd out on the legal side for 1 second.
Please do. Yes, please do.
Usually judges, they try not to decide on constitutional issues. If they can find another way out that's easier, they're not going to address the big rock, the big constitutional issues. They were really focused a lot on the Fourth Amendment. It wouldn't surprise me if they actually made a ruling on that basis. You know, some other bases which were interesting, you know, Race Day Quads alleged that the FAA was having all of these, what they call ex parte, which means off the record, conversations with industry that had an interest in the rule, that could benefit from the rule, and never put any of that stuff out into the public. And they got a hold of it through Freedom of Information Act requests. Race Day Quads did, and their attorneys.
Right.
So, and all that stuff, by the way, is on Tyler Brennan's website, you know, Race Day Quads. Like they just, it's out there. You could read it for yourself. You know, so then the question becomes, you know, there's 53,000 comments, public comments to the rule. What if the public had an opportunity to see these other, you know, conversations or documents? Would there have been more? You know, I don't know that answer. But it's going to be an interesting issue if they address it under the Administrative Procedures Act, and how far, you know, you can go as a federal agency having conversations with people. At what point do you need to put them in the record while a rule is pending, if it's about something that could affect that rule? And I think that could impact other federal agencies and federal practice. So again, I think there's really broad, you know, reaching things beyond remote ID that this case could really shake out, and only time will tell, and hopefully it'll be soon.
First, as I respond to this, thank you for adding schnoiks to my lexicon. I appreciate that. I'm going to start using that. Secondly, thank you very much for being in our corner. We need more people like yourself, knowledgeable people, passionate people, lawyer type people, because after all, that's where it's going to shake out in the courts.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Ken, like, when it comes to taking sides, like, I do tend to view myself more as Switzerland. Like, I'm just going to call it like I see it. And, so, I'm all about following the rules and certainly about following the Constitution.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I spent 25 years raising my right hand to, give my life to protect this nation and defend the Constitution, not any one person, if it came to that. So, you don't mess with procedure. You don't mess with constitutional rights. That's where you're going to have some problems. And so that's what the judges seem to be kind of leaning towards, that maybe there was a little bit of a foul here. So we shall see. So
do you think they're going to rewrite it? And then, I mean, because how do you think it's going to shake out? Because everybody's worried about all this and how it's going to end. And what our hobby's going to be like in a year, 2 years.
Well, so okay, so let's talk about so FPV, that was already an issue, right? Mm-hmm. With the FRIAs, the federally recognized identification areas, and being kind of relegated to just really going there if you weren't going to have remote ID on your drone. Okay, mm-hmm. Either as a module or baked into the drone, which those little drones, it's just not feasible, probably. No. I mean, that's what Tyler was saying. So, it really could rock everything, because when you think about it, remote ID, even though it's really written for the security agencies, it is a linchpin to things like, UAS traffic management, to operations over people, categories 2 and 3, right? Mm. The drone is supposed to be remote ID compliant. Well, okay, what's happening with the rule? So, I mean, there is a lot of things weighing in the balance right now. And given the fact that the first rule took 2 years to iterate, from beginning to end, 53,000 comments, getting it out there in the Federal Register, that's very concerning. Because, and look, the Beyond Visual Line of Sight, Aviation Rulemaking Committee has met. I don't know where they are, honestly, on giving recommendations over to the FAA for consideration for a notice of public rulemaking on BV loss. But, that's also the remote ID rule is going to impact that. And so maybe we're not hearing a lot because everybody's sitting around waiting for the judge's rulings.
Yeah, I have to believe that it's the billionaires driving a lot of this legislation because they want to have the bragging rights to be, we got delivery drones. Well, Amazon's backing it down, and other people are like, we'll do it later. But, and I always worry about all of this stuff where, and I say it all the time, that innovation outpaces legislation. That's always going to be. That's always going to be the way. Yes. But I'm worried that they'll implement remote ID, and then terrible things will happen. Someone will find someone, beat them up, worse. Where you can see people. Something will happen. Then they'll rethink it after the fact. It's much like the airline industry. Well, we don't fix anything till 100 people die in a plane wreck. Then they're like, well, what? We should have tightened that bolt, maybe. So I'm worried about.
We already know that drone pilots are getting attacked, by knuckleheads out there that don't like drones for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I think that was one thing. If I was going to, kind of poke a hole in something, I was always very concerned, like you, about the fact that the pilot's location would be known to the public. Why is that necessary?
Yeah.
In other words, if this is to help law enforcement, that's one thing. The warrant, the need for a warrant, let's put all that aside. But if I was Joe Q Public and I'm, going to report someone driving erratically, I'm writing down their license plate and I'm going to call it in. Like, if you can give that license plate, that remote ID number, period, dot, to the public, okay, I can live with that. But why do they have to know where the pilot is located? Is completely irrelevant to the general public.
Yes. Amen.
There's no public purpose for that.
Yep. That's right.
And, law enforcement, 3-letter security agencies when needed, have at it. You got to locate the perp. I got that.
Yeah.
But, why go there? That was one thing that was always a head scratcher to me.
Yeah. Kelly, did you have any questions? Do we have any questions in the chat for Dawn?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, if you do have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat, and I'll relay that to Dawn. Okay.
And let me just ask you, do you fly drones yourself? Do you have any drones yourself?
So I do have a drone. I haven't flown it a lot. I have a son he's a 22-year-old aeronautical engineering major at RPI, and he is a Part 107 pilot, but he's very impatient with me. And so, he doesn't want to hang out with mom and teach her how to fly.
Oh.
So I know it's been frustrating. This summer, I'm going to work with CSU, Colorado State University. They actually have a drone center, and they put on Part 107 courses. So my intent is this. So I'm going on record right now. This August, I'm going to take that week-long course and just carve out the time and make it happen because I really, really, really want to fly.
Awesome. Well, you should. You should. And speaking of women pilots, you are also involved in Women and Drones, are you not? Here's their website.
I am. So that's a little snippet right there of their website. So Women and Drones, actually, I had Sharon Rossmark, the CEO of this fine organization, on my clubhouse called Drone Law Connections, which meets every Thursday at 11 a.m. Mountain, if you're interested in that too. But yeah, Sharon was on there, and we talked about this. It's her organization. I'm a huge advocate, supporter. I've been helping her run the Women to Watch Global Award program for the last couple years. We just had the 5th anniversary at CES 2022 in Las Vegas. It was unbelievable. I'm actually a recipient of that award, and that actually inspired me to create my company. So I'm all in with Women in Drones. I love what they're doing. And because it is, fun fact, it is Women's History Month, and next Tuesday, March 8th, is International Women's Day. Women in Drones has been pushing out some information, and they just looked at the statistics last year from the FAA, and it looks like for licensed Part 107 pilots, we're almost at about 8% women. That's it.
Why do you think that is? I mean, I look at my analytics of my drone channel, and it's like 96, 97% dudes. Love you, dudes, but we need a more equal. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I think it starts early, honestly. We've been having a lot of discussions. I just had a great podcast with Lori DeMatteis. She's the global VP at Iris Automation about this and some of her experiences. It really starts early in school. Like what kids are exposed to, vis-a-vis, what boys are expected to do, what girls are expected to do. She shared a statistic with us. It was really frightening. When math tests were blind graded, in other words, names did not appear on the math test for middle schoolers, girls scored on average 15 to 20 points higher than when their names were actually on the exam. And that's a grading bias. And it's around that same time in middle school where girls start opting out of STEM career fields, including things that could lead to being a drone pilot. And so, I really believe strongly this starts with education. And, I don't know if you guys have heard about U.S. Drone Soccer. They're out here in Colorado. I'm in Colorado Springs. They're out of Denver. Incredible, Harry Potter Quidditch meets, STEM education class in a cool, indoor venue. And, the kids build the drone, they code it, they fly it, and they compete.
Wow.
And, what I love about U.S. Drone Soccer is, by the way, it's run by, in part by Kyle Sanders, retired, U.S. Air Force major, disabled vet, is they're building, diversity, equity, inclusion right into their DNA in their company. They just got a grant to go to Lagos, Nigeria, and they put on the first ever esport tournament with drone soccer out there in early February. And the condition was they had to be girl-led teams and they had to be co-ed teams. So, just get your brain around that for a second. In Africa, girl-led teams for drones.
Yeah.
Wow. Right? So again, these kids, they had to apply to compete, so they got a bunch of videos. They had to select only 8 schools. But they said they had so many schools to pick from, it was insane. But just the fact that they were exposed to the technology and were excited about it, and that's what I think something like, drone soccer and things like it can do. I think drone racing is another one. Super cool. Get kids excited. Get them in their hands. Let them see what it can do.
Yeah.
And I think, 10 years from now, I think the industry is going to look a lot different.
Yeah, FPV in particular has been sort of underground-ish. I still bring it out some in public places, and because everybody's seen a drone, they're like, "Oh yeah, a drone," and then I give it to Beans, and it's like, doing on them. They're like, "Ugh." I've had kids scream with joy when they see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when they have the little lights, or you can put little cool gadgets on and make them look like an alien.
Right. But
there's a group here, Full Send FPV up in Denver. They got this really cool indoor arena. We had a UAS roundup out in Mount Princeton in the Central Colorado UAS Club. And they have, by the way, the only outdoor drone park in the United States, here in Colorado in Buena Vista. And so as part of that event, Full Send set up a whole drone racing track with all the gates and everything, and so cool. And then we had a little conference the next day, and they're just flying those tiny whoops around. We're like, there's a panel up there, having a serious conversation, a little whoop, it's like going right by you inside. It was so fun.
Oh, it's very fun. Now, do you think that that girls, young women in schools are discouraged from going into more technical fields because, drones now are careers, and there's more drone careers emerging every day, it seems. Are they encouraged or are they discouraged from going into technical fields? And is this the fault of teachers that just don't have the foresight to know about future careers and stuff?
Well, wow, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they're necessarily encouraged, discouraged. I feel like it's neutral, and I feel like it's that last point that you made. And I don't want to blame teachers because, look, I love teachers. My dad was a teacher. My husband's a teacher. I am a college professor for 2 universities at the graduate and undergrad levels. Teachers are underpaid and underappreciated. It's a funding issue, and you're absolutely right. It's the fact that it's not that they don't. The teachers aren't exposed to this technology and what it can do and what they can bring into the classroom. And then they're not funded to bring it into the classroom. I mean, hell, they're out there asking, parents to buy Kleenex and markers for the classroom because there's no money.
I know several teachers that have drone programs in middle schools and high schools, and they're very, teachers are very passionate, and very often they'll use their own money to buy these drones and to get kids interested. But still,
Ken, this is exactly somewhere where industry can step up.
Okay.
And so, like, when you think about it, and you think about all the companies that might be around in the drone ecosystem, why are they not helping fund some of this, donating drones? I'll tell you, the little Central Colorado UAS Club out there in Buena Vista, they're actually donating drones to the local high school. Like, they're scrounging it up, they're making it happen. And so clubs can do it, businesses can do it. Get out there and knock on the door of these schools and say, we would love to show you what we can do, and your kids are going to love it. And even drone soccer, their model is they're partnering with not-for-profits in schools pretty much exclusively, but they're looking for sponsor funding. Because their arena costs, I think, $20,000 for the arena. It's like $500 a pop for the kit for each one. Yeah. Now, when you think about some of the more affluent schools, look, I got a bunch of lacrosse players in my house. Kids are playing club sports, even in high school. They're ponying up, $500 a season, for their gear and stuff, because a lot of time, unless it's football, American football,
right.
Other than that, like the parents are paying. And so, you could make a club, there's all kinds of ways to make this happen. It's, again, I'll use that term, it's grassroots. It's got, people have got to be energized and start knocking on doors and making it happen.
And as passionate as the people who are watching right now, I would encourage, if you're not already, to just be a good ambassador to our hobby. I use every opportunity I can. Whenever I'm flying somewhere, a kid runs up. First, I look for their parent. And then, I ask the parent, hey, did your kid want to go for a ride? And they're like, ride. I put the goggles on, take them for a ride, and their mind is blown. I know I've created dozens of little future FPV and drone pilots out there just by being a good ambassador to when I'm out in public. And it's,
I was going to say, no doubt about that. The drone soccer did the Rocky Mountain State Games here this summer. And the kids were like from the Boys and Girls Club and it was like the United Colors of Benetton. It was amazing. Like the diversity of the kids showing up for this, boys, girls. But you know what? It was the parents. It was the grandparents that came to watch. And I'll tell you what, they were cheering those kids on. And guess what? You've got lifelong fans of drones now.
Yeah, because after all, it's flying. It's a superpower, and kids love superpowers.
It is.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, once again, before we let you go, and thank you so much for all your insight. I hope you can come back and be on the show again sometime.
Yeah, I hope so too. I'm sorry for the rough start here. Like
my
I said,
fault.
Things were glitching all over the place.
Oh, that's all right. So tell us about your event coming up, and this is open to the public once again.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, if you're going to AUVSI, or if you weren't, you're planning to you live in Orlando, Florida, or close by, come on down Monday, April 25th. Ken, do you have the promo code?
I do. Yeah, the one that you emailed me.
Yeah. Make sure everybody gets this. So this will give you $100 off for so if you sign up before March 25th, which is coming up, $250 all day long, meals included, and plus a 3-day expo hall pass. It's like the Jelly of the Month Club, the gift that keeps on giving. You can run around that expo floor 3 football halls long, right? For 3 days for $250.
Okay.
So and the networking is going to be spectacular, and the education you're going to get.
You want me to put that promo code in the description later?
You know what? Just do it up. Let's go big. Go big or go home. Honestly, I'd rather make less money and fill all the seats. I really would.
Awesome. Dawn Zoldi, thank you so much for being on. You are amazing, and we appreciate your passion and your lawyerism.
Well, thank you so much. It was great to be with all of you.
Wonderful. All right, we'll see you later.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.